London controls the world financially through currency and banking. And Washington, D.C. is the strong arm and controls the world through brute military enforcement and wars. Let's briefly discuss each and their apparent dragon connections. The seed is the Vatican. The word Vatican itself comes from Latin and is a contraction of two words, vatis meaning prophetic or diviner, and can meaning serpent or snake. These two words combined make the prophetic or made divine serpent. And since the Vatican is a place, you may say that Vatican means the place of the prophetic and worship serpent. And an attempt to translate divining serpent into everyday English, it seems to mean a spiritual serpent that is worshipped as God. The importance of the symbol of the dragon to the Catholic Church is unmistakable, as they are found to be prominently displayed in various locations throughout the Vatican, including the museum where the crest of the Vatican, the serpent dragon, or the pagan Babylonian god Marduk, is the oldest and central piece of their collection. Images of dragons can be found in other places on the grounds too, like the large one on the Vatican floor, or those that are intricately carved into the wooden panels on Vatican doors. Today, the Catholic Church is the biggest financial power, wealth accumulator, and property owner in existence, possessing more material wealth than any bank, corporation, giant trust, or government anywhere on the globe. The Pope, who is the visible ruler of this colossal global wealth, is one of the richest men on earth, and even though the Pope is said to be the holiest living human and God's representative on earth, the majority have not behaved that way. Most have participated in various wicked and twisted forms of debauchery. Like Pope John XII, who it is said that there was no sexual act or perversion he would not try. He not only consorted with the whores of Rome, but also with young boys and animals. Pope Clement II surrounded himself with little page boys in tunics cut off above their buttocks, allowing the Pope to fondle them from behind from time to time. Others murdered their opponents and resorted to bribery and racketeering. Two consecutive popes, however, take the title for having the most debauched reigns. Pope Innocent VII and Pope Alexander VI not only did their fair share of torturing and killing, but also frequented in bribery, simony, and nepotism while making a virtual whorehouse out of the Vatican that resulted in several illegitimate children. Since its inception, the Catholic Church has spent hundreds of years waging crusades and inquisitions, mercilessly murdering and annihilating all opposition and forcing their indoctrination at the tip of a blade, essentially saying, accept our version of God or go meet yours immediately. They hunted down, slaughtered, and systematically eliminated all heretics, pagans, and anyone else they believed may possess any understanding of ancient wisdom and spiritual truth, intentionally driving humanity back into the Dark Ages in order to essentially reset history as if we've never been advanced before. They only passed their ancient advanced knowledge down through various dragon-controlled secret organizations and attempted to repress publicly any advancement in spiritual or scientific thinking, like Galileo's heretical assertion, which was well known before by many ancient cultures, that the earth revolves around the sun. To ensure the masses' ignorance of the truth, they have stolen, suppressed, and even intentionally destroyed esoteric information and artifacts that they have decided not to keep for themselves. The Vatican's secret archives are estimated to have over 52 miles of shelf space, housing everything from Jerusalem temple artifacts stolen in 70 AD by the Romans to Mayan codices that only they kept copies of and had the rest destroyed in bulk by the conquistadors and priests. More modernly, the Vatican is engaged in a whole lot of unsavory acts, including helping organized crime gangs launder vast sums of money and being one of the only places to still offer banking services that Swiss banks can no longer do by law. At the end of World War II, the Vatican even helped smuggle Nazi war criminals out of their countries as part of Odessa, a secret organization for former SS members whose purpose was to establish and facilitate secret escape routes, later known as rat lines, to allow SS members to avoid their capture and prosecution for war crimes. Under the leadership of Pope Pius XII, also known as Hitler's Pope, the Vatican negotiated a concordat with Adolf Hitler, who was born and raised a Roman Catholic and portrayed his Third Reich as a Roman Catholic enterprise as part of the loosely formed Holy Roman Empire. Pope Pius XII, who is accused of forbidding monasteries and convents to shelter Jews and accepting loot stolen from the Nazis' victims, wrote a letter to Hitler saying, "To the illustrious heir Adolf Hitler, Führer and Chancellor of the German Reich, here at the beginning of our pontificate, we wish to assure you that we remain devoted to the spiritual welfare of the German people entrusted to your leadership. May the prosperity of the German people and their progress in every domain come, with God's help, to fruition." Many Jesuits became officers in the Nazi SS, and in fact, the current Pope, Pope Benedict XVI, was himself a Hitler Youth. The second part of the Trinity is the City of London, often called the Square Mile. It's a plot of land approximately 1 square mile located in the middle of the London metropolis. The city is not a London borough, and it is independent from England. Unbeknownst to almost everybody outside the UK, and even to most British people, it has its own distinctive political representative body, and it is ruled by the City of London Corporation, which is probably the most powerful and self-interested political lobby in the world. The Dragon Bloodlines connection to this endeavor is made blatantly obvious by the City of London's coat of arms that displays a white shield showing the same dragon red cross of St. George and red sword that is found on the City of London's official flag, along with a pair of dragons, each holding opposite sides of the shield. This image is plastered next to the main street names on the signs in the square mile. You see, the dragon with the shield is the symbol of the City of London, and statues depicting him can be found in various locations, marking and guarding the boundary of the City of London Corporation's jurisdiction, like the one on a pedestal before you cross London Bridge, and those on either side of the Victoria Embankment, marking the border between the City of London and Westminster. The city-state of London is the banking arm of the Trinity of Cities. It is not only London's main financial district, but rather the world's financial power center, and it is the wealthiest square mile on the planet. It houses the Rothschild-controlled Bank of England, Lloyd's of London, the London Stock Exchange, all British banks, the branch offices of 384 foreign banks, 70 USA banks, Fleet Street's newspaper and publishing monopolies, headquarters for worldwide Freemasonry, and is the headquarters for the worldwide money cartel known as the Crown. It is thought to be the biggest tax haven in the world, as it hosts Britain's largest offshore financial center, and it is intimately linked to satellite tax havens across most time zones. Needless to say, this is the place where all the global power banking is done. The last city in the Trinity is Washington, D.C., which is located between Virginia and Maryland, but is not actually part of any U.S. state. Residents of the district have one non-voting representative in the U.S. Congress. They do not have voting representation in the United States Senate, but D.C. is entitled to 3 electoral votes for president. In the U.S. House of Representatives, the district is entitled to a delegate who is not allowed to vote on the floor of the House, but can vote on procedural matters and in House committees. Washington, D.C.'s government operates under authority derived from the U.S. federal government, and these dragon dynasties have managed to permeate American politics so thoroughly that the vast majority of successful politicians, historically, are from these prominent families and are commonly found to be high-ranking members in various influential secret societies and organizations. You see, the USA was founded by the Dragon Elite for the very reason of executing their plan to control the world. It is this nation which is the hub of its wheel of influence. Since its discovery, the history of the USA has been the history of ethnic cleansing, imposition of power, slavery, mass exploitation, and the worship of wealth. The U.S. president, generally accepted as the most powerful man in the world, is a slave to his prime allegiance, the Brotherhood and their bloodline agenda. Available evidence proves that running the United States has been a dragon family affair since the very beginning. Did you know that all 44 U.S. presidents have carried European royal bloodlines into office? In fact, every U.S. president except the 8th, Martin Van Buren, are related to one common ancestor. They are all cousins and grandsons of King John Lackland Plantagenet of England, King John of Robin Hood fame, and the signer of the Magna Carta that gave more power to the British Parliament. 34 presidents have been genetic descendants from Charlemagne, the brutal 8th century king of the Franks, who was also George Washington's 31st great-grandfather. 33 descend from Alfred the Great of England, and 19 from King Edward III of England. In fact, until Barack Obama, the presidential candidate with the most British and French royal genes has won every single American election. However, President Obama is very much family too. His presidential cousins include Presidents George W. Bush and his father, George H. W. Bush, Gerald Ford, Lyndon Johnson, Harry Truman, and James Madison. He is also linked genetically to other prominent figures, such as Vice President Dick Cheney, British Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill, and the Civil War General Robert E. Lee. If U.S. presidents are democratically elected, as we are told, then what are the odds that we would always choose members of the same royal families of Britain and Europe that we supposedly defeated during the so-called wars of independence to lead us? We, the people, are simply given the illusion of free choice, and regardless of which political party a candidate is affiliated with, the end result stays the same. Republicans push to make the rich richer and eventually squeeze out the middle class, and the Democrats push for bigger government involvement. Either way, the elite benefit and gain more and more power and control over the general population. Masonic researchers Christopher Knight and Alan Butler claim our first president and 33rd degree Freemason, George Washington himself, was a member of what they referred to as the Star Family, and that he also helped with the occult symbolism that appears in the layout of the city that was named after him. He is shown depicted in a statue from 1840 by Horatio Greenhaw entitled The American Zeus, which is an illustration inspired by the colossal statue of the Nordic war god Zeus, and interestingly, the pose looks extremely similar to that of the devil in his occult tarot card. Also interestingly, the White House is located at the same spot of the inverted pentagram, which represents the all-seeing third eye of the devil on his card. Through the Illuminati's thorough infiltration and manipulation of American politics and their control over Washington, D.C., America has been all too eager to play its part as the strong arm of the empire of the city. We average Americans have unwittingly participated in helping to progress the modern-day Roman Empire's agenda of total global conquest and domination through a long list of atrocities against humanity, including the waging of wars, often intentionally instigated through the use of false flag operations designed to deceive the public, by the operations appearing as if they are being carried out by other entities. These false flags are used for various reasons, including as justification for the forceful occupation of various global territories in order to safeguard the interests of U.S. megacorporations and the bloodlines global operations. The earliest documented American atrocities committed by white European bloodlines on behalf of the U.S. government begin with stories of the slaughter of countless Native Americans en route to stealing all of their land and gaining compliance for this through the use of brute force, terror, and useless treaties that the white man had no intention of honoring in the first place. The list of sadistic crimes committed against humanity on behalf of the U.S. government just gets worse from there, as evidenced by the long list of admitted human experimentation, including not just surgical experiments, but the use of pathogens, disease, biological warfare agents and chemicals, radiation and radioactive materials, as well as psychological and other forms of torture on its own people, all without their knowledge or consent. Even today, we are still being constantly and continuously poisoned and intentionally kept sick through the use of things like organophosphate fertilizers and other toxic pesticides in farming, as well as by the addition of various hazardous chemicals to our food supply, like the neurotoxin preservative MSG or monosodium glutamate that attacks your nervous system, or the highly toxic and cancer-causing byproduct of the aluminum manufacturing process and the refining of phosphate rock, which was used as rat poison for 40 years, called fluoride, that is being added to the water supply around the world. They even add harmful chemicals like mercury to the vaccines that are meant to keep us well. Dragon families not only control the pharmaceutical drug racket, including the development, production, and distribution of drugs that cause worse problems and symptoms than those they are meant to treat, but they are also in control of the illicit drug trade that keeps millions of people easy to control and strung out. They work almost as hard to keep us sick as they do trying to keep us ignorant of and suppressing the findings of any scientific experiments or tests appearing to show any really effective treatments for various diseases like cancer. In fact, the last century there have been several medically proven highly effective treatments and even cures for cancer. Most have been highly ridiculed and suppressed because there's no money in curing a disease, only through the need for treatment. Among these methods are things like the use of intravenous vitamin C, hemp oil, oxygen, ozone therapy, and even the control of the body's natural pH balance, all of which help support the body, whereas all of Western medicine's only available treatments of surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation therapy create more toxicity and problems for the immune system and are designed to indiscriminately kill your body's cells and immune system. It is easy to see that we all mean less than nothing to them. Even the war veterans who risk their lives for the elite's agenda get little to no help when they return home as thanks for their participation in the forcing of other countries and their populations into doing whatever the elite deemed necessary at the time. They come home with horrible physical and psychological damage due to what they have been forced to do and all of the different horrific things that they have seen and been made to endure. For this ultimate sacrifice these veterans have made for their country under the guise of fighting for freedom, most cannot get the medical help that they need physically or mentally. Many are starving and even homeless. After spending many, many years at the top as the world's strongest country, the United States are on their way back downhill because the global elite are intentionally running it into the ground. The time of our usefulness has almost passed, But before they leave us totally impoverished and irreparable, I assure you they will exploit every possible resource we have and leave us with less than nothing. We will soon be too poor to do anything besides what they say. The current dire situation facing the United States, like that of so many other countries around the globe, is no accident, but rather the intentional result of a system that was designed and implemented in antiquity, known to secret society elites and Illuminati families for centuries as the Great Work, to eventually bring about the global establishment of a dragon bloodline controlled New World Order. But what is the New World Order? As it exists today, the New World Order is a synthesis of modern descendants of these ancient dragon bloodlines. They are the survivors of ancient empires, of super merchant families, of barbarian kings, of banking families established in the Middle Ages, and of all the royal families of Europe. Their ultimate goal is the creation and total control of one world government, one world currency and bank, one world army, and a microchipped controllable population connected to a central computer to use as slave labor, as was our original purpose in remote antiquity. To perpetuate their claim of deserved superiority over the masses, the rulers of the past have explored innumerable ways to achieve their goals, both subtle and violent. But one method has been recognized as being the most effective and has been employed by the ruling aristocracy through governments, businesses, and monarchies throughout the world since prehistory right up to the present day. That is, by keeping the masses in ignorance of their true potential and power, to keep them at a low level of education, preoccupying their minds away from who they truly are from birth, to manipulate them via systematic education program in all areas of their existence, into channeling their lives in pursuit of handing over power to their rulers. If this can be done in a way that the masses have no recourse and believe this condition to be the only way to live, then they will be highly unlikely to challenge the status quo. The only way for the Brotherhood to thrive and prosper is to keep the world's population in ignorance of the amazingly powerful creatures they really are, by convincing people that they're little more than robots, that they can use these robots to perpetuate their power base. Today, the basic premise is that the goal of each individual should be to become a minute part in the global machine of consumerism led by Western multinational corporations and banks. Every other consideration is subordinate to the prime motivation of profit. Obviously, those in the positions of influence, politicians, bankers, corporate executives, media moguls, have been, according to their own definition, successful within the system, so have an interest in maintaining the status quo at all costs. This framework shapes every aspect of our life through education, the media, healthcare, cultural and sporting events, religion, etc. With these framing conditions in place, the system regulates itself. Individuals with attitudes that suit the perpetuation of the system achieve status and influence within it. Those who accept the establishment rules soon find ways to impose those rules. Those who are blind to the exploitative realities of consumerism attain positions to promote it. Regardless of how the framework came to be imposed, the truth is that the same attitudes control education, media, governments, and banks, and therefore exert an irrepressible influence over every aspect of our lives, our thoughts, and opinion. This system, like the entire Illuminati structure, is based upon the same ancient hierarchical pyramid principles symbolically illustrated by the pyramid with the all-seeing eye, with the very few elite at the apex as the all-seeing eye and ultimate controllers that dictate to the many at the bottom, who in the largest numbers are kept in ignorance and have no idea about the true agenda which is being dictated and ministered to them from above. The vast majority of people working to further the elite's aims of the New World Order do so unknowingly. Only the few at the top of the pyramids know the real agenda and what the Brotherhood is trying to achieve. The further you go down the pyramid, the more people are working for the Brotherhood, the less they know about its real agenda. They are only aware of the individual job they do every day. They don't know how their contribution connects with those of other people in other areas of the company, government, organization, or whatever. This is further enforced at each step of the pyramid by the process of compartmentalization, which is the operation of the need-to-know principle. This way, even those upon the same level of the pyramid know very little of their fellow colleagues' business and role within the overall plan. Power always seeks power and will never stop until all power is solely in the hands of the most ambitious. Through the levels of initiation from the bottom to the top, only the most ambitious and ruthless are filtered out to occupy more and more select positions of power and knowledge of the ultimate agenda. This pyramidal structure is mirrored in government, banking, business, secret societies, and every other organization and institution. The smaller pyramids, like the local branch of a bank, fit into bigger and bigger pyramids until eventually you have the pyramid that encompasses all of the banks. It is the same with the transnational corporations, political parties, legal systems, secret societies, organized crime gangs, educational institutions, medical industries, organized religions, media empires, and the military. If you go high enough in the structure, all of them are controlled by the same families who sit atop the biggest pyramids. In the end, there is a global pyramid that includes all the others. At the capstone of this global pyramid, you will find the most elite of the Illuminati, the purest of their bloodlines, who are like a hidden hand pulling the strings from behind the scenes. In this way, they can coordinate through apparently unconnected, even opposing areas of society, the same policies. Only they know every individual link in the chains which have kept us in bondage for millennia, and all roads eventually lead to them. The situation within the hierarchy of the elite is necessarily complex, as the activities are concealed behind a large number of front organizations of varying degrees of secrecy. It is they who design the system, and it is only they who know exactly how it all fits together. The present system has been maintained and progressed throughout the ages by using imbalanced, dragon-ruled secret societies in order to perpetuate their wealth and power, so that today we have a global network of secret societies whose only motivation is to serve the Luciferic consciousness. The root of all these modern elite secret organizations in most world religions can be traced back to the original secret organizations of the ancient elite, which were universally known throughout the ancient world as mystery schools, or the mysteries. The mysteries were the religious assemblies of the ancient elite, whose ceremonies were conducted in secret and whose doctrines were known only to those who obtained the right of knowledge by previous initiation. They were like ancient fraternities that were established in order to pass down esoteric knowledge to only a select few who were deemed worthy. They were widespread among the ancient world, from the civilization of ancient India extending west to those of Mexico and Peru in the Americas, with various locations in between. They flourished in Egypt, Rome, Greece, Persia, as well as in Britain, Scandinavia, and Asia Minor. Many of them were well known, so their existence was not a secret. However, the actual knowledge from within the school was fiercely guarded, and initiates were expected to guard the secrets and rites of the fraternities with their lives. Just as in Freemasonry today, the initiates of the ancient mystery schools took sacred oaths, and they vowed that death should seal their lips before revealing any of the secret knowledge, for if they did, the prescribed punishment for the divulging of secrets was immediate death. They all taught about the existence of a supreme creator force, the unity of this God source, and our connection to it. They were taught of the divine nature of man, the immortality of the human soul, whose true home is in the spirit world, free of the cage or tomb of the human form, and that there is a future state of existence for mankind, where we are capable of amazing things. It is these esoteric truths on which virtually all world religions and secret esoteric organizations are founded and based, some more loosely than others, and many intentionally corrupted and misrepresented. The Indian gymnosophists, ancient Egyptian magicians, Greek philosophers, Celtic druids, American Indian shaman, Australian Aboriginal shaman, and Oriental magicians have all possessed arcane knowledge pertaining to the true nature of creation. Initiates were often revered as holy men by the laity and were spared the distractions of daily life in order to keep alive the flames of the inherent magic of life. Each of the ancient mysteries held ceremonies of initiation that were all funereal in nature. They were dramatic representations of the violent death and subsequent restoration of life to a distinguished personage that was either the object of esteem as a hero or of devotion as a god. This death and rebirth symbolism is very important spiritually and continues to be utilized by Christianity and Freemasonry today. Armed with vast amounts of wealth and esoteric knowledge, the negative secret society network has flourished as the aristocracy of the world. Power, wealth, and information has been gained and maintained via warfare, exploitation, and especially in the last century through the control of the world's economic systems. In the last century, with the acceleration in technological development, particularly in terms of communication, the elite have sought to realize their ambitions more swiftly with more blatant and definable aims. Today, through a virtually monopolized media, they are attempting to control public opinion and destroy any and all alternatives to their system while making huge amounts of money and slowly gaining more and more power in the process. Still don't believe that this truly evil and monstrous conspiracy actually exists? Well, when confronted with a conspiracy of this magnitude, many say it is impossible, because if there was a huge global conspiracy for world government, someone would have spilled the beans. The fact is that many of the world's most influential leaders, including presidents, popes, secret society members, and illuminists themselves, have publicly stated and written entire books about what they are doing. President Woodrow Wilson once stated, "Some of the biggest men in the United States in the fields of commerce and manufacturing are afraid of somebody. They know that there is a power somewhere so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive, that they had better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it." Former President George H.W. Bush mentioned it on several occasions. In 1988, he was quoted saying, "The New World Order is the consolidation of more power and money into tighter, fewer, righter, eliter, wider hands." Then, in a speech on September 11, 1990, he stated, "Out of these troubled times, our objective, a new world order, can emerge. Today, that new world is struggling to be born, a world quite different from the one we have known." And in another of his speeches, he said, "What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind. The winds of change are with us now." In June 1992, Bush further admitted to Sarah McClendon of the Washington White House press corps that if the people were to ever find out what we have done, we would be chased down the street and lynched. In a speech by Pope John Paul II, he was quoted saying, "By the end of this decade, we will live under the first one world government that has ever existed in the Society of Nations, a government with absolute authority to decide the basic issues of survival. One world government is inevitable." David Rockefeller, an American Illuminati banker, head of the Rockefeller Empire, and one of the top 500 wealthiest people on earth, admitted in his memoirs that some even believe we, the Rockefeller family, are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I am proud of it. Later, at a UN conference in 1994, he confirmed that they are just waiting on the right circumstance to implement in-game, saying, "This present window of opportunity, during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built, will not be open for too long. We are on the verge of a global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis, and the nations will accept the new world order." This information is disturbing enough on its own, but here's where it really starts to get totally sick and twisted. You see, all the available evidence points towards the fact that there is an Illuminati depopulation agenda in place, which is also referred to as the Great Culling. In essence, it is to be a large-scale racial cleansing of the planet, eugenics and genocide on a global scale. This plan is well documented, and it calls for the mass culling of the human population by anywhere from 50 to 90%. Their method: disease, wars, natural disasters, vaccination, famine, genetically modified crops, etc., to ensure maximum die-off of who they have deemed the undesirables. In fact, the United States government and FEMA have been setting up concentration camps to hold any potential survivors. There are over 800 prison camps in the United States, all fully operational and ready to receive prisoners. They are all staffed and even surrounded by full-time guards, but they are mostly empty. The camps all have row facilities as well as roads leading to and from the detention facilities. Many also have an airport nearby, like the one near the new mysterious Denver International Airport, which is also known as the New World Airport. The majority of the camps can house a population of 20,000 prisoners. Currently, the largest of these facilities is just outside Fairbanks, Alaska. The Alaskan facility is a massive mental health facility and can hold approximately 2 million people. These camps are to be operated by FEMA should martial law need to be implemented in the United States. And all it would take is a presidential signature on a proclamation and the Attorney General's signature on a warrant to which a list of names is attached. The Rex 84 program was established on the reasoning that if a mass exodus of illegal aliens crossed the Mexican-U.S. border, they would be quickly rounded up and detained in detention centers by FEMA. Rex 84 allows for many military bases to be closed down and to be turned into prisons. Operation Cable Splicer and Operation Garden Plot are the two sub-programs which will be implemented once the Rex 84 program is initiated for its proper purpose. Garden Plot is the program to control the population. Cable Splicer is the program for an orderly takeover of the state and local governments by the federal government. FEMA is the executive arm of the coming police state and thus will head up all operations. There are presidential executive orders associated with FEMA already listed on the Federal Register that would suspend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights that are also part of the legal framework for this operation. These executive orders have been on record for nearly 30 years and could be enacted by the stroke of a presidential pen. By all accounts, it would appear that something major is on the horizon, so it should be no surprise that there are quite a number of ancient sources from around the globe that point to the year 2012, or around this time in history, as being a time of some sort of extreme change heralding in a new age. Among these sources are the Mayan calendar, the Hopi, the Inca, the Aztecs, Colburn Bible of the Egyptians and Celts, the Kali Yuga of India, I Ching of China, Nostradamus, and even a very modern thing called the web bot that, according to the History Channel, was created to monitor and analyze information out on the internet in order to be able to predict the stock market. And it goes completely blank of information for 3 months starting on 12/21/12. There are two different kinds of major changes that are supposed to happen at this time in our history. One makes the future look bleak and hopeless with death and cataclysm, while the other looks more bright and hopeful with love and enlightenment. In the doom and gloom scenario, there is talk of solar flares, earthquakes, and polar shifts or pole reversals, which have been proven to have happened hundreds of times in Earth's history, and these cause catastrophic destruction across the entire globe. When the poles shift, mountains rise and fall in the blink of an eye as the Earth's plates shift, while massive earthquakes happen and volcanoes erupt, and there is massive flooding as tsunamis slam ashore, and the Earth's face is resituated with brand new orientation in relation to the poles. The Golden Age scenario, on the other hand, predicts a new Golden Age where people of different races, colors, and creeds from all over the world gather around a new Messiah called Maitreya, heralding an era of peace and enlightenment. Maitreya is a very important figure that has been expected for generations by all the major religions. Christians know him as the Christ and expect his imminent return. Jews await him as the Messiah. Hindus look for the coming of Krishna. Buddhists expect him as Maitreya Buddha, and the Muslims anticipate the Imam Mahdi or Messiah. Although the names are different, many believe they all refer to the same individual, the world teacher, whose personal name is Maitreya. Preferring to be known simply as the teacher, Maitreya will not come as a religious leader or to found a new religion, but as a teacher and guide for people of every religion and those of no religion. At this time of great political, economic, and social crisis, Maitreya will inspire humanity to see itself as one family and create a civilization based on sharing, economic and social justice, and global cooperation. He will launch a call to action to save the millions of people who starve to death every year in a world of plenty. Among Maitreya's recommendations will be a shift in social priorities so that adequate food, housing, clothing, education, and medical care become universal rights. Under Maitreya's inspiration, humanity itself will make the required changes and create a saner and more just world for all. One mention of Maitreya in a Sanskrit text implies that he is a teacher of meditative transcendentata and states that gods, men, and other beings will lose their doubts and the torrents of their cravings will be cut off. Free from all misery, they will manage to cross the ocean of becoming. No longer will they regard anything as their own. They will have no possession. They will have torn the net of passions. They will manage to enter into trances, and theirs will be an abundance of joy and happiness, for they will lead a holy life under Maitreya's guidance. Be wise, however, and do not be fooled by the Antichrist, who will appear somewhere out of the European Union, speaking sweetly and convincingly, telling you what you want to hear. Use the internet to check credentials, for they will be tricky to distinguish between, because their stories are similarly prophesied. One main difference is that the true Christ will not only lead and rule the people lovingly, opposite of what the Antichrist wishes to do, but he will also speak and teach of esoteric things that the Antichrist will continue to keep hidden. He will teach a Hermetic philosophy like the ones taught in the ancient mysteries, based on the teachings of Hermes, also known as Thoth, the author of the Emerald Tablets. Hermetic followers believe in the divine nature of man and that we are capable of acquiring amazing abilities through techniques aimed at learning how to master aspects of ourselves. These include the full and complete conquest of the mental faculties, the development of all forces and energies, the emancipation of the will, and the attainment of an absolute individualism. In other words, the great work of the Hermetic art is, before all things, the recreation of man himself by means of transmutation. He will teach that a God source does exist and that all the concepts of one God in every religion are speaking of this same energy source of which all things are made. The Hermetic view of God is that absolutely everything that is, was, or will be collectively makes up what is called the All. Rather than the all being simply the sum total of the universe, it is more correct to say that everything in the universe is within the mind of the all. Since the all is looked at as mind itself, or a unified field of pure consciousness, a thinking energy from which everything in existence is made, energy and matter are one and the same. All of the ancient cultures had a very thorough understanding of this universal thinking energy. The concept of a life energy inherent in all living beings is a universal archetype appearing in many religions, mythologies, philosophies, and belief systems, and they each have a name describing this omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, and omnibenevolent supernatural creator and overseer of the universe. The Hindus call it prana, Polynesians mana, Egyptians ka, European alchemy and Wicca call it the ether, and Hitler and the Nazis called it vril, but the most commonly known is the Chinese concept of qi, around which Eastern practices like qigong, tai chi, and yoga revolve. There are also a number of scientific terms for this energy or aspects of it. The most significant to us, however, is in the field of quantum physics, where this infinite intelligent energy is called the quantum ocean. Numerous tests have proven that it has some very interesting characteristics, including the fact that the laws of physics do not apply to this subatomic energy. In the quantum ocean, there is no time, no past, no present, nor future, only the now, and a multitude of other experiments show that there are many other mind-bending metaphysical phenomena displayed by it as well. It is capable of instantaneously teleporting itself, or it disappears from its immediate location and at the same instant appears in another. It exists in multiple states and places at the same time, showing not only can it be in two places at one time, it has to be. It is moved and shaped by our observations and intentions and reacts to our thoughts and emotions. In fact, the laws of quantum physics tells us that we live in a participatory and holographic universe where thoughts are things and consciousness creates. Thus, we are all co-creators of our own realities and destinies. This means that we have all the power we need to create all the changes that we choose in our lives and in our world, and it is through this field of consciousness that together we create the healing or the suffering, the peace or the war. These experiments have shown conclusively that we interact with the quantum ocean, whether we know it or not, and whether we want to or not. So could we do it intentionally? Well, according to the ancients, the answer is yes. The pursuit of establishing connection with this divine energy source is called mysticism, and is defined as the pursuit of communion with, identity with, or conscious awareness of an ultimate reality, divinity, spiritual truth, or God through direct experience, intuition, instinct, or insight. Also, according to these ancients, we have the ability to harness and control and use this universal energy in a variety of different ways that range from telekinesis and levitation to astral projection and even spontaneous healing. Many religions and philosophies believe that it is only through mysticism that the latent abilities in man are released. Almost all religions have a mystical path, including Christianity, and those throughout history who were successful in their mystical pursuits were called mystics, shaman, magi, high priests, kahunas, and brahmin, and were able to perform natural feats that we in the Western world would consider to be magic. In this new age of enlightenment we are about to enter, known in astrology as the age of Aquarius, we human beings will not only learn about this universal thinking energy God source, but also the amazing truth of what we are really capable of. We are to begin the mastery of these things, which will begin with the mastery of oneself. This is mankind's next stage to master in his evolution to the divine God man he is. Just like the ascended masters of the past, during this period of time, the secret esoteric hermetic principles that have been hidden from the masses for millennia by secret organizations will be shared with and practiced by all. The Kabbalion is a book that was published anonymously in 1908 by a group or person under the pseudonym of the Three Initiates. It claims to be an elucidation of an ancient, unpublished hermetic text of the same name and to be the essence of the teachings of Hermes. In it is described the seven hermetic principles. These are the principles of mentalism, vibration, correspondence, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. Though they are all important, I'm going to focus briefly on the first two, mentalism and vibration, because I believe an understanding of these two principles combined with an understanding of this God source is really going to be the key to you beginning to understand and believe in your own God-given divinity, and your belief is the master key to unlocking your full potential. In the beginning, as the religions of East and West so strikingly agree, was the word, meaning the vibration of sound. The principle of vibration explains that everything in existence vibrates, and the differences between different manifestations of matter, energy, mind, and even spirit result largely from varying rates of vibration. From the all, which is pure spirit vibrating at an infinite rate of intensity, down to the grossest form of matter whose vibrations are so low as to seem at rest. All is in vibration. The higher the vibration, the higher the position in the scale. Between these poles, there are millions upon millions of varying degrees of vibration. It turns out that there is a sacred or mystical syllable in the Dharmic or Indian religions like Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism that is shared with the Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and it plays a similar role in its use within these traditions. The divine vibration is the sound Om. Hindus believe that as creation began, the divine all-encompassing consciousness took the form of the first and original vibration, manifesting in the sound Om. It is the sound of creation and symbolizes the manifestation of God in form. In most of these religions, it is typically recited after prayers, and in Arabic, Amen simply means so be it. The principle of mentalism embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains that not only are our own minds powerful creating tools, but the all may be considered and thought of as a universal, infinite living mind. It also explains that all the phenomenal world or universe is simply a mental creation of the all. This law also states that the holographic memory of the human genome enables our DNA biocomputer to form images of biostructures holographically, and that the universe is a mental creation of all of humanity, that is, the collective human consciousness. Our reality, then, is the projection of the collective consciousness onto a specific range of frequencies that is made in such a way that everyone sharing the experience accepts that same experience as real. Our holographic reality is nothing more than a dream from which we are all starting to fully awaken, a gigantic network of Akashic energy from which everyone accesses the same data simultaneously and in real time. The differences between the manifestations of the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual result simply from different levels of vibrating energy or frequencies. So while the feelings of fear, grief, and despair vibrate at very low frequency, the feelings of love, joy, and gratitude vibrate much quicker. Although most frequencies exist outside of our normal range of perception, all can be perceived as both colors and sounds. So the color blue is also heard as the musical key of D, which vibrates at 587 hertz. But what is more interesting is that if a frequency is vibrating fast enough, it's emitted as a color of light. The occultist, alchemist, philosopher, and mystic Alexander St. Ives was one of the most influential spiritual teachers or philosophers of France in the 19th century. He wrote several works and manuscripts. His last was an enormous work published in 1903 called The Archaeometer. The book explores the value of various philosophical, scientific, occult, and religious systems and their place in the universal tree of science or tradition, and it was intended to be the key to all religions and sciences of the ancients. Archaeometer is the measurement of the arche, or the universal cosmic force, of which the Hermeticist speaks. It is a process, a key, which makes it possible to penetrate the mysteries of the word or vibration. It is a measuring instrument of the first or primary principles of the manifested universe. It shows how the original Atlantean alphabet translates into the material, the word, form, color, smell, sound, and taste, the key to all religions and the sciences of antiquity. It is a universal canon or guide which points out the relationship between astrological indications, tones, smells, letters, and colors, where the musician finds therein the color of tones, the writer the tone character of letter, etc. When two frequencies are brought together, the lower will always rise to meet the higher. This is the principle of resonance. A great example of how vibrations affect forms is found in the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto. Because water is the most receptive of the four elements, Dr. Emoto figured that water might respond to thoughts, and since 1999 he has published several collections of photographs and explanations of his amazing experiment findings. In his vast array of experiments, Dr. Emoto has utilized numerous variables, including a variety of different water sources and modes of inducing vibration. In one experiment, he printed out words, and then he taped the various words to bottles filled with distilled water. He left the bottled water out overnight. He then photographed the water with a dark field microscope the next day. The first word used was the Japanese word for thank you. The result was the formation of a beautiful crystal structure. The bottle labeled, "You make me sick, I want to kill you," produced a murky yellow sample that resembled pond scum. When you give your thought to something, you alter its molecular structure. Your conscious and unconscious thoughts are creating the universe that you're sitting on. Thoughts become form. They say the hard science of how our thoughts affect water molecules is unknown, but what we do know is that about 70% of your body is water, and so if thoughts can alter the molecular form of water, imagine what our thoughts, especially negative, are doing to our bodies every day. Using the principle of resonance, we can actually increase the speed at which the molecules in our bodies vibrate through our thoughts of love, joy, and gratitude. Christy Marie Sheldon, founder of Lover Above, woke up one day with the ability to read and communicate with people's energy fields or auras and tell them what is holding them back in life. According to Christy, the key to manifesting and attracting what you want lies in overcoming the hidden abundance blocks that lurk within your energy field and subconscious mind. According to Christy, it all starts with your personal vibration, and the sole reason why you're where you are is because you're vibrating at the average human level of 207 on a scale that reaches 1,000. However, the good news is that you do not need to reach 1,000 to reap the benefits. All you have to do is raise your vibration to the level of love or above, which is 500, At 500 and above is where love, joy, and abundance are all easily within your grasp. Once you're vibrating at this level, you'll become a magnet for the things you truly want. You can think of the pyramid capstone with the eye as the vibrations between 700 and 1,000. Albert Einstein once said, "Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It could be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics." Harmonics is the technology that enables the determination of the sound frequency one needs for balance and harmony of mind, body, and spirit. In his book titled The Universal Laws of God, Dr. Joshua David Stone, PhD, wrote about how we are all electromagnetic beings, so our subconscious mind is always attracting and magnetizing vibrational frequencies. Like everything else in the universe, thought waves have their own unique frequency, and once a thought is accepted into the conscious mind, it imprints itself on the subconscious like a computer, which then attracts and magnetizes it. Our thoughts are frequencies to which other similar frequencies are constantly resonating, and it is our aura that acts as an antenna to attract them. So we are unconsciously broadcasting frequencies that are picking up similar frequencies from everyone and everything around us. We are literally attracting vibrational frequencies back to ourselves like a magnet. This resonance is the basis for a universal law, the law of attraction. The magnetic force of the law of attraction is one of our greatest assets. It's the basis for the ability that God gave us in being able to create heaven on earth, and it is our thoughts that actually manifest the experience. When atoms slow down, third dimensional matter is created. When they speed up, the higher dimensions of consciousness can be reached. And the higher our consciousness is raised, the closer to spirit we become. At the highest vibrations is the level of consciousness sought after by mystics throughout all ages. This is the level called, among its many alternative terms, God consciousness. Differing religious traditions have described this fundamental mystical experience in different ways, but they are all talking about the same exact phenomena, that of transcendent unity with this universal God source and connection with pure spirit. This level of consciousness is associated with what is called the third eye. The third eye is our spiritual antenna and psychic center that, when open, provides perception beyond ordinary light. It is associated with the sixth chakra, or the brow chakra by the Hindu, and its location is said to be the pineal gland. The pineal gland is a 50 millimeter long, around the size of a pea, pine cone shaped structure sitting deep down in the center of the head. It is located between the left and right brain hemispheres near the base of the brain. It is said to be the shriveled remnant of an ancient warmth and light perceiving sense organ. It is known to regulate certain biological rhythms and functions and release chemicals like melatonin into the brain. It is called the House of Spirit by the Chinese, and as you can see, the Babylonians, the Syrians, Greeks, and Egyptians and others also knew too well of this sacred pine cone shaped gland and spiritual light receptor. There is no doubt that the early Christian church also knew about the existence of this godly gland. Evidence to prove this includes the pine cone staff carried around by the Pope, and the fact that the largest pine cone in the world is at Vatican Square in the Court of the Pine Cone. It is even referenced a couple times in the Bible. I know, you're sitting there right now thinking, wow, that's amazing. How do I get started doing this stuff? Well, the most proven method is the over 5,000-year-old Chinese art and practice of Qigong. And L.B. Carney's book, Qigong, Chinese Healing, Energy, and Natural Magic, is one of the best sources that I have encountered, and in my opinion, it's a great place to get started. The term Qigong is used to describe various Chinese systems of physical and mental training for health, martial arts, and self-enlightenment. Qi is the central underlying principle in traditional Chinese medicine and martial arts, and is usually translated as life energy, life force, or energy flow, and definitions often involve breath, air, gas, or relationship between matter, energy, and spirit. Gong is often translated as work or practice, and definitions include achievement, results, skill, mastery, and accomplishment. The two words are combined to describe systems and methods of energy cultivation that are designed to cultivate and balance life energy. In short, Qigong is the study of this universal thinking energy, and it is a discipline that emphasizes learning how to deliberately harness, develop, manipulate, and utilize this form of intrinsic energy that is within living organisms, including your own body. The method and ultimate objective for the practice is dependent on the practitioner. From my research, I've identified two basic guidelines that seem to be the general rules that most esoteric traditions and religions appear to follow concerning connecting to this universal energy. At risk of oversimplifying the process, it appears that one needs to live what I call an energy affirming, or including proper diet, of raw, fresh, energy-rich foods, hydration, regular exercise, meditation, and breathing techniques used for acquiring, building, and the moving of this energy, as well as a vibrationally positive, including positive thoughts, emotions, feelings, and actions like love and kindness and compassion that keep you vibrating at a high frequency, lifestyles that will eventually allow you to vibrate at the frequency of pure spirit. The ancient mystics understood, and modern experiments have proven, that the single most powerful force in the universe lives within each of us. And if the particles that we're made of can be in instantaneous communication with one another, exist in two places at once, live in the past as well as the future, and even change history through choices in the present, then we can too. The only difference between those isolated particles and us is that we're made of a lot of them, held together by the power of consciousness itself. Be the change that you wish to happen. We are being given our final warnings and opportunities to do all we can to emerge from the despair of the old dark order and into the new future of light. The only way to achieve this is to recognize the pitfalls of the Luciferic influence and live our spiritual ideals in deed as well as in thought. In order to facilitate the transformation, we must resist the urge to identify those who would seek to control us as hopelessly evil. We must recognize the system for what it is and seek to change it in a loving, positive, and balanced way. Even at the highest levels of the Brotherhood elite, the most misguided of the Illuminati are not immune from the effects of the global reawakening. It is those who are most imbalanced towards negativity who have the greatest positive potential. If just one of these elite Luciferic controlled minds is returned to its natural balanced state, then virtually the entire process could be reversed overnight. This is a potential, and any potential is possible. It all depends on how much energy we channel into that potential to make it a reality. Don't allow the further decline, or the consequences may be disastrous. Always be true to yourself first and foremost, and see beneath the veil of deceit. Remember, these people kill or cause people to be killed for profit, pleasure, and power. No one is inexpendable, and most of the executors of these hidden agendas are entirely unaware or willfully ignorant of what they are really being used for. The coming transformation to a unified, multidimensional Christ consciousness will affect everyone, the Brotherhood included. We can only be controlled if we allow ourselves to be so. Nothing is impossible. We are the vehicles for the divine consciousness. We are the creative hands of God. It is up to all of us, and that includes the Brotherhood, to reevaluate our position, for we cannot escape ourselves and the karma we create. The biggest obstacle in overcoming this conspiracy is information. The most important thing to do is continue educating yourself and start awakening others to the global conspiracy. Utilize the internet, for at no other time in our history have we had the capability to spread information in such a rapid fashion, but the window of opportunity will not be open for much longer. Educate your friends, family, neighbors, and co-workers. Send this video to everyone you can. Burn and post your own copies. I hereby give permission, and give them to everyone you know. When your friends ask where you attained it, simply say that someone loved you enough to give you the gift of truth, and ask them to do the same. The fate of the world is in your hands, and I sincerely hope this video inspires each of you to wake up and to reach your fullest potential, because you are all amazing creatures. Be good to yourselves and others, follow your heart, and always love. What happens is up to you. Love to you all. Namaste.